know, the gravity is not just that apple falling from the tree, right? Hi. Just want to take a little moment to talk about gravity and movement. We are constantly taught that gravity is a pulling force. And yes, if I have something like this, when I release it, it seems to fall or it's being pulled to the earth. Well, again, when you're a living organism, you're not being pulled to the earth. You are, though, when you do not have rotational movements, right? So when you're a child, let's say, with cerebral palsy, the system, the body, does not have rotational movements, right? So without rotation, the body wants to, when organizes to succumbing or being, in a sense, pulled to gravity. When I move my hand, let's say that this, per se, is gravity, right? So when I'm going through, and this is where you're talking about the bending of space, what happens in a sense here. As I'm moving through the atmosphere, atoms, all of this kind of thing, this rotational movement allows me to organize, because why? I have the sensation of gravity, or the binding force thereof, all around that system that's moving. Now, if I don't have rotation, yes, I can oppose it, but that's where one of my theories is gravity appears stronger when you don't have rotational movement. So again, I can put my arm out, but to rotate out, gravity will appear weaker, right? But our system organizes within this momentum, right, of gravity within us, and that's how a baby starts to develop. Those are our first movements. When a baby, and you think, is just wiggling in your arms, and that's why, too, you don't want to swaddle babies, you don't want to restrict them. You don't want to put a baby like in a swing, in a sense, or in those mamaroos, because now you're taking that organization of opposing gravity. And again, that opposition to gravity using rotational movements is so crucial with living organisms. So if I put something in between, right, now I'm already changing that organization. So when you're looking at something like that, a baby, or just again, a swing, or again, those mamaroos, where now you've got a Foucault rotation and vibration affecting that, so the brain and the body are going to organize against that as being a valid or functional movement, right? So that's where astronauts in the space station, again, too, right, they don't have that movement whatsoever, and they're just here, and they're just what we see, either floating or free fall. Well, what it is, their rate of buoyancy is much higher because there's no rotation, there's no gravity, right? So we have a buoyancy factor where if I come down, I collect oxygen and spring up. I talk about those things all the time. Those are the things that you want to look at with the way you're organizing movement. You can oppose movement with strength, but at some point, again, one of my theories, the mass will supersede the might. So when you're dealing with mass within yourself, now that could be cancer. Cancer acts as more as a mass because it doesn't have a rotational property, or even just a G-tube or a shunt. You will see those variations, what it does to movement, even just to look at what glasses or just your cell phone will do to your organization of movement. Cell phones are even more so for it, and that's why I don't like vibration plates as a form of therapy. You can do vibration plates if you, again, know how to oppose gravity using that, because, again, it's just another modality of movement. But when you don't understand the organization of movement, that's where you have to watch what modality of movement you're using to organize movement. That's why the structures that I use here with movement lesson and the touch that we use here is very important, because it has to go with the organization of movement, which is therefore functional movement. Functional movement allows you to do something of function, right? Just because I can do this, again, you know what I mean? Like, I can do it and it might be cool to look at, kind of thing. It's not a functional movement, whereas feeding my face or getting dressed and so forth, where, again, I need that opposition with rotation of climbing and doing that, throwing the ball, and you'll see variations to opposing gravities using rotation. When those mechanisms of movement are not present in the human body, then the actions aren't capable. So therefore, the actions that we take in outer space have to be done very calculated to reflect what we've done already to organize movement.